Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over my Week 7 college football predictions. So last week, I had a record of 11-6, and that brings my record on the season to 95-21. But kicking things off this week with the one game we have on Friday, and that is Utah at Arizona State. So both teams are actually 4-1, and this could be a close game. Utah is expected to have starting quarterback Cam Rising back for this game after he missed the past few games with a hand injury, and he should help a Utah offense which is scoring 28.4 points per game, which isn't terrible, but also isn't great. Now, Utah's offense should have a pretty good game this week, as they face an Arizona State defense that isn't great, allowing 24 points per game. Now, on the other side, Arizona State's offense is scoring 33 points per game, and they have a great run game, rushing for over 200 yards per game. But they face a good Utah defense, allowing 15 points a game, and just allowing 107 rushing yards a game. But I don't think Arizona State will find a ton of success running the football, and I think that is going to limit their offensive success because they don't have the greatest pass game either. But I'm going to take Utah to get the win here. I think this could be a close game. I would not be shocked to see the upset, but I've got Utah winning this one 27-13. Moving to the rest of the games, all on Saturday, beginning with South Carolina at Alabama. So Alabama is coming off a huge upset loss against Vanderbilt, and they need a bounce back win. They face South Carolina, who isn't terrible but isn't great, as they're 3-2. But Alabama, they need to play much better defensively after they allowed 40 points to Vanderbilt last week and are now allowing 20 points per game. But I think the defense will play well against the South Carolina offense that isn't great, and I think Alabama will have a good game, as offensively they're scoring almost 45 points per game. They face the South Carolina defense that's solid, allowing 19 points a game, but I do think Alabama's offense should find a lot of success. But Alabama is in need of a big win here. I think they'll get it, and they will easily beat South Carolina 42-13. Moving on, we have Wake Forest hosting Clemson. So Clemson's looked good ever since their season opening loss to Georgia, and then they'll face a Wake Forest team that isn't very good. As Wake Forest, they're really bad defensively, allowing 31 points per game, and they don't have to stop Clemson offense that's averaging nearly 40 points per game. Then the Wake Forest offense isn't terrible, scoring about 30 a game, but I just don't see them being able to keep up with Clemson's offense. Clemson's offense is playing really well right now, and they will simply outscore Wake Forest. Even if Wake Forest has some success offensively, it won't be enough, and Clemson wins by a score of 38-21. Moving on, we have UMass hosting Missouri. So Missouri is coming off a brutal loss to Texas A&M, where they lost 41-10. The good news for Missouri, they now have a good opportunity to bounce back as they face a terrible UMass team. UMass is just 1-5, and their one win came against an FCS team. UMass is also terrible on both sides of the ball, as offensively they're scoring just 19 points a game, and defensively they're allowing 31 points a game. But Missouri is going to dominate this game. Their offense will have a big bounce back game. Their defense will play much better, and Missouri wins easily at 49-7. But a side note, why is Missouri going to UMass? That makes no sense, but I do have Missouri winning this game big. Moving on, we have the Red River rivalry, and that is Oklahoma against Texas. So this is obviously a big rivalry game. Oklahoma, they've been okay so far this year. They're 4-1 and ranked inside the top 20, but I don't really think they're quite as good as their 4-1 record may suggest. As that record also includes a 4-point win over Houston and a 6-point win over Auburn. They don't have to face Texas, who's one of the best teams in the country. Now, these games are usually close, as 9 of their last 10 matchups have been one-score games, but I don't know if Oklahoma will be able to keep up with Texas. As the Oklahoma offense is okay, scoring 28.6 points per game, and it's already not great, but it's not terrible either. But they now face a great Texas defense, which is second best in the country, allowing just 7 points per game, and Texas also hasn't allowed more than 13 points in a game yet this season. Then offensively for Texas, they'll be getting Quinn Ewers back from injury, and their offense is already scoring 45 points per game. Oklahoma does have a pretty good defense, allowing 16 points a game, and they're good against the run. And I think their defense can keep them in this game for a while, but I just don't think Oklahoma has the offense to keep up with Texas. The Sooners' defense keeps it close in the first half before Texas pulls away in the second half, and Texas ends up with a convincing win 36-17. Up next, we have Penn State at USC. So USC has lost 2 of their last 3 games, and they've come against Michigan and Minnesota. 2 teams who have good run games and have good defenses. Penn State is just like those teams, another team with a good run game and a good defense. So this is going to be another tough game for USC. The USC offense is scoring 30.8 points per game and throwing for 292 yards per game, but they face a good Penn State defense that is allowing just 11.4 points per game and 157 passing yards per game. Then on the flip side, Penn State relies heavily on the run as they're scoring 34.4 points per game, averaging 217 rushing yards per game and 5.4 yards per carry. Now, the USC defense isn't terrible, but they're not great either. They're allowing 18 points a game and struggle against the run, as they're allowing 158 rushing yards a game and 5 yards per attempt. But I think this will be a close game. I think Penn State will control most of the game with their run game and defense, but USC will keep this close. But Penn State wins because of their run game and defense. They've remained undefeated and win by a score of 24-19, but I wouldn't be shocked to see USC get the upset win. Up next, we have Stanford at Notre Dame. So Notre Dame is coming off a bye after their big win over Louisville, and then they'll face a Stanford team that's 2-3. And in their last two games, both those games for Stanford have been blowout losses. Now, Stanford's not that great. Their offense is scoring just 23 points per game, and I don't see them finding much success against the Notre Dame defense that ranks top 10 nationally, allowing just 12.6 points per game. Then defensively for Stanford, they're also not great, allowing 27 points a game, but the Notre Dame offense hasn't been anything too impressive this year, scoring 32.4 points a game. Now, something interesting is Stanford is good against the run, allowing just 88 rushing yards per game, and Notre Dame has relied heavily on the run, offensively rushing for over 200 rushing yards a game. So that makes things interesting. But I do think Notre Dame will be able to run the football, and quarterback Riley Leonard is a good runner as well. Now, speaking of Riley Leonard, even if Notre Dame doesn't run the football effectively, which I think they will be able to run the football, but I think Riley Leonard can have a big game as a passer against a bad Stanford pass defense. But Notre Dame, they're going to win this game pretty easily, and I've got them winning by a score of 41-6. Moving on, we have Cal at Pitt. So Pitt has been a surprising team so far this year, as they're 5-0, and then they'll face a Cal team that's 2-3, but I think they're a solid team, as they just played Miami close and probably should have won that game. Now, Cal is pretty good defensively, as they're allowing 18 points a game, but they face a great Pitt offense that's scoring 45 points a game, and led by a good quarterback Eli Holstein, who has 18 total touchdowns this season. Now, the Cal offense played well last week with a season-high 38 points, and I think they could play pretty well again this week, as they face a Pitt defense that's allowing 25 points a game, which isn't great. Now, Pitt does have a good run defense, and that could impact Cal's ability to use star running back Jaden Ott, although he is battling an injury, but expected to play. But I do think this game will be a higher scoring game. Pitt has looked really good this season, especially offensively, and I think if this game becomes a shootout, I don't think Cal will be able to keep up with Pitt. Eli Holstein has another good game, and Pitt becomes bowl eligible as they reach 6 wins, and they win this game by a score of 35-27. Moving on, we have Purdue at Illinois. Purdue is not that good. They're just 1-4. Their only win is against an FCS team. They're terrible on both sides of the ball as well. As Purdue, they're scoring just 18.6 points a game. They're allowing 36 points a game. And while I don't think Illinois is an amazing team, they're still much better on both sides of the ball. The offense will find success against a bad defense. The defense will dominate against a bad offense, and Illinois dominates this game overall and wins by a score of 42-3. Moving on, we have Arizona at BYU. So this one's an interesting game. BYU is 5-0, but I'm still not completely sold on them as a great team. And in Arizona, they're 3-2, but I refuse to give up on them just yet. As they have a good offense, they beat Utah a couple weeks ago, and they could still definitely be good. But this will not be an easy game for BYU. Arizona has a good offense, which is scoring 28 points per game, and they face a good BYU defense that's allowing just 15.8 points per game. Then the BYU offense, which is scoring 33 points a game, faces an Arizona defense allowing 23.4 points a game. Now, I could definitely see an upset here with Arizona getting the win. I don't really trust either team, even though BYU has beaten some good teams like Kansas State and SMU. I still don't completely trust them, but then I also don't trust Arizona. But this game could definitely go either way, but I'm going to take BYU to get the win. They're home, I think their defense is better, and BYU wins in a close one, 27-24. Up next, we have Mississippi State at Georgia. So Mississippi State is not good. Their one win this season came against an FCS team, and then they'll have to face a top 5 team in Georgia. The Mississippi State offense is terrible, scoring 18 points a game, and they face a good Georgia defense, allowing 14.4 points per game. Then on the flip side, the Mississippi State defense is really bad, allowing over 31 points a game, and they face the Georgia offense that's scoring 32.4 points a game. But Georgia is going to dominate this game. They didn't play quite the game I expected from them last week against Auburn, although they did win by a good amount. But I'm expecting them to dominate this game. Mississippi State might be the worst team in the SEC, and Georgia wins easily by a score of 42-10. Up next, we have Florida at Tennessee. So Tennessee is looking for a bounce-back win after an upset loss to Arkansas last week, and then will face a Florida team that's 3-2 and has won back-to-back games, but they enter the start of a really tough stretch, where Florida faces 5 top 15 teams in their next 6 games. But Tennessee, they need a much better offensive performance than last week's game, as they scored just 14 points. But the offense, I think they will have a bounce-back game, as they're scoring 46 points a game on the season, and Florida's defense is okay, allowing 24.4 points per game. But Florida also can't stop the run, allowing 176 rushing yards per game, and that's exactly what Tennessee wants to do offensively, rushing for 266 yards a game. Then, defensively for Tennessee, their defense is elite. They haven't allowed more than 20 points in a game yet this season, and they're allowing just 9.4 points a game. The Florida offense is decent, scoring 30 a game, but I don't think they'll be able to do much against such a good Tennessee defense. Tennessee is going to dominate this game with their run game and defense, and Tennessee wins this game pretty easily by a score of 38-13. Moving on, we have Ohio State at Oregon. So we will have a lot of watch for this game that will start at about 7:30 Eastern Time, so I hope to see you guys there. But this is a game that I really have no idea who will win. I've gone back and forth on this game a lot. In the preseason, I picked Oregon to win, but recently I've leaned more towards Ohio State, and I've really gone back and forth a lot. But both teams are great. Ohio State has a great offense, scoring 46 points per game, and that ranks 4th in the country. They also have a great run game with Travion Henderson and Quishon Judkins, and are rushing for 222 yards per game. They now face an Oregon defense that's allowing 17 points a game and pretty good against the run, allowing 101 rushing yards per game. Then on the flip side, Oregon's offense is good, scoring 35 points per game, but I still don't think they've reached their offensive potential. But Oregon, they have a great passing game, throwing for 294 yards per game. They now match up against an Ohio State defense that is the best scoring defense in the country, allowing just 6.8 points per game, and they're also a top 5 pass defense in the country, allowing just 129 passing yards per game. But this is a game that can definitely go either way. I could see Ohio State winning because of their defense and their run game. I could also see Oregon winning because they're home and Dylan Gabriel outplays Will Howard. Both those, I think, are very realistic scenarios, and this game could truly go either way. But I'm going to take Ohio State to get the win in a very close game. I think their defense is going to be a little bit better. They'll be able to run the football effectively, and Ohio State wins 30-27, but this game is a true coin flip. Moving on, we have Ole Miss at LSU. So this is going to be another good game. Ole Miss is coming off a solid bounce-back win over South Carolina, and LSU was on a bye. Now, Ole Miss, they have a great offense, scoring 44 points per game, and LSU also has a great offense, scoring 35.2 points a game. Then defensively, Ole Miss has the advantage, but I'm not really sure how much defense will be played in this game, as Ole Miss is allowing 7.5 points per game, compared to LSU, who's allowing 21.6 points a game. Now, this is a game that could truly go either way. I think Ole Miss is the better team here, but going on the road to LSU is no easy task. But I think Ole Miss has the better defense, and that's going to make a difference. I also think they have the slightly better offense. That's going to make a big difference. And even though Ole Miss hasn't hit 30 in each of their last 2 games, their offense will play well here against an LSU defense that isn't too great, and I have Ole Miss with a big road win over LSU, winning 42-28. Up next, we have Iowa State at West Virginia. So Iowa State is undefeated at 5-0, but they now face a pretty good West Virginia team. Iowa State has been led by a strong defense this season, allowing only 10 points per game, but West Virginia's offense is good, scoring 33 points a game, and they also have a good run game, rushing for over 200 yards per game. Now, the interesting thing is, while Iowa State's defense is good, their run defense isn't anything too great, as they're allowing 138 rushing yards a game. Now, the West Virginia defense isn't that good, allowing 25.6 points a game, but the Iowa State offense also isn't anything too great, scoring 31 points a game. Although Iowa State has been better offensively as of late. But this is a game that could go either way. I'm not a huge fan of this matchup for Iowa State on the road against a team with a good offense, and Iowa State already plays a lot of close games. But I am going to take Iowa State to get the hard-fought win. I think this will be a lower-scoring game, but Iowa State remains undefeated, and they win this game by a score of 22-21. But I'm really not confident with that pick. Moving on, we have Kansas State at Colorado. So Colorado is 4-1, and they've won 3 straight games, while Kansas State is also 4-1. But these teams play very different styles of football. As Colorado is an offensive pass-first team, as they're scoring 31 points a game and throwing for 326 yards per game, while their defense isn't that good, allowing 23 points per game. Then, for Kansas State, they're a team led by a good run game and a good defense, as they're scoring 31.4 points per game, rushing for 252 yards per game, and their defense is allowing 19 points a game. Now, the Kansas State pass defense is solid, but not great, so I could see Shedeur Sanders having a big game here for Colorado, and this is a very interesting game, because with how different these teams are, it could really go either way. But I trust Kansas State more than I trust Colorado. I'm going to take Kansas State because of their defense. And while I said Kansas State is a run-first team offensively, their pass game is pretty good as well. And quarterback Avery Johnson is actually coming off his best game of the season, where he had 3 touchdown passes. And I have Kansas State winning in a close one, 31-26. And our final game, we have Boise State at Hawaii. So it's time for the weekly game of who is Ashton Jeanty going to run over this week. In this case, it's Hawaii. Now, Hawaii's defense is actually pretty solid, allowing 19 points a game and just 120 rushing yards per game, but there's not much that can stop Ashton Jeanty. And the Boise State offense is actually the best scoring offense in the country, scoring 50.6 points per game, and they're rushing for 301 yards per game. So even if Hawaii's defense somehow stops Ashton Jeanty, I still don't think they'll be able to keep up with the rest of the offense, as Hawaii is scoring just 24 points per game. But Boise State continues to win, Ashton Jeanty continues his Heisman campaign, and Boise State wins big, 45-12. Well, those are my Week 7 college football predictions. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, turn notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible. Be sure to check out the community tab of my channel, where you guys can vote on who you think will win some of this week's big games. But thank you for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, turn notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next